This is TVA by Jenna, a podcast about real human issues brought to you by Dark Crazy Dark
This is TVA at my dinner. My name is Sean. I am here with Andrew and Lynn.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
And tonight we're going to talk about the Falcon and
I'm
the
talking
Winter
to you now
Soldier.
for the first time tonight.
Yeah. Good to just
Oh,
now see
I didn't see you there.
Oh, hi. When did you
Yeah,
come in?
that's how you do.
Yeah, you're like, oh wow.
But yeah, so a couple things. So like we did, Falcon and Winter Soldier has hit its midpoint, and maybe we'll talk some Godzilla versus Kong too.
Oh, yeah, I did watch that.
I did watch that.
But-
I also watched New Mutants.
Oh,
I've seen
really?
that.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen it.
It's
I don't know if we talked about it on the show because it kind of came and
I
went.
think we just mentioned we weren't recording that much at the time that it came out. I do remember mentioning it's not a whole lot to talk about that damn
no,
Bear
it's not a lot to talk
VO
about.
at this beginning. Everyone's
I
like,
didn't mind it.
It was okay. None of the characters were interesting, so it made it hard to follow.
It's a lot of these movies
As a
that come out. It's
story.
like this feels like a '90s superhero movie or something. Like, yeah,
The
it's fine.
accents were distracting.
I don't remember the
And-
accents.
But I love having some gay representation. That was great.
I think it was
uh,
totally watchable for and like it's just a Saturday night
yeah,
watch the
like you
movie
said,
and,
if it
like,
came out like in the '90s or something, everyone was, that's fine.
it's like when you watch.
It's a
superhero.
I watched those Fantastic Four things on Disney again. I haven't watched these in a while. Like not the old one, like with Chris Evans. Like it's fine. It was
That's
entertaining
how-
for an hour and a half.
I like
Like,
those. I
moving
like
on.
that Silver Surfer one, and they're
So
goofy.
TVA and my dinner opinion on New Mutants. It was okay.
Fine.
It's fine.
I think it's okay for things to be fine. Don't get me into another rant, but I think it's okay because I
Let's
watched it
get into
again.
another rant here.
Well, I watched that Chaos Walking movie I mentioned to you before we get into that. And that's that Doug Liman movie with
Is
Tom
that any
Holland
good?
and Daisy Ridley. And it's the thing, it was shelved for a while, and it's based on this idea, a sci-fi little idea that the men on that you can hear their thoughts. They call it the noise. So if I'm like, while I'm talking right now, Sean might be going, idiot. He's just an idiot. Like that's what it is.
Isn't that
Like
based on a book?
yeah, it's called The Knife. It
Yeah,
has
I've
a cool
read the
title.
book.
Yeah, and it's not like the book where all the animals talk to like that. I listened to excerpt on Audible. I was like, whoa, might be more annoying to listen to this book. It's like the squirrels and the dog are also, you can hear their thoughts. Like, yikes.
Yeah, it has a thing that happens in the book that's a massive, massive trope, especially in young adult novels. And I had someone I was tutoring at the time who was like, "This is amazing, this thing that they did, and it's a amazing emotional beat in the book." And I'm like,
I
"It's
don't
in every
remember.
book, dude."
What is it? Don't spoil it for Sean. I don't know what. I don't even know what.
I don't know if it happens in the movie, but the dog dies.
The dog does die. Yeah.
And in the book
I'm
he
not
talks,
watching it.
and the dog's his only friend, and he talks to the dog, and it's a
Yeah.
big
He
thing.
doesn't talk to the dog.
And the dog
dog's
died.
cute,
And
then-
and this kid was just like, the dog dies, and it's this massive emotional. I'm like, yeah. And they were like, how are you not feeling so upset? And I'm like, because this dog always dies.
But even I watched
like-
this, yeah, and it's not as kind of impactful.
all
to
I
kind of
remember
move on
about it.
from. I think I forgot what happens. To the
But
dog.
like, men can hear each other's thoughts, but not women's thoughts.
Well, in this first thing, the whole premise is you get to this thing and it has great people and it's like Matt Mikkelsen's the sheriff, Jonas, Nick Jonas is his son, whatever. Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland are great, and I forgot the name of the guy who's his father, but he's an actor you've seen in a bunch of things. I forgot what his name is. And like Cynthia Erivo, on her name, she's like the leader of this other camp. She's in a bunch of cool stuff. Like there's all actors. These are all like actors who have been like nominated for things. Real
actors.
And yeah, well, the only ones that won awards are real actors. But it's a camp that's just men at first, and then Daisy Ridley arrives from this thing, and she's like, they kind of touch on this, and they kind of address it. Like you start getting weird vibes, like she's the only woman, and then what happened to all the women that used to be in this camp? You don't know. Like, he was a baby.
Because something would have had to happen. This game,
Yeah,
in
and
this
when they say, because
whoa.
there's aliens on this planet too, there is like a race of aliens which have the worst name in the world called the Spackle, which is like a bad name for. But you do see one. The men of the alien race. You can hear their stuff, but it's all gibberish. You don't really know what they're saying, but it's like you can see this noise stuff too. when it's happening. So like you can be in the distance and see there's a dude right there because
he's
like
thinking like crazy.
Yeah. But then they can control it and they can kind of make visual like optical illusions from it too. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. Okay, and this is like we like the director. Is the director of Edge of Tomorrow and what's his face?
Doug Liman. You said he's good.
Born Identity, all those other movies. He's a great director. So it's like, and if you watch it, to me, it just like I watched it and I was like, well, I could turn this off at any moment. I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And I watched this couple hours and I was like, that felt like a weird like Twilight Zone episode, like the premise and like there's like a little adventure they went on. It's not like the most mind blowing thing in the world, and you watch it like, okay, that's cool. I would give it a 6 or 7. You know, if you had to rate it, it's like I think most movies are around a C.
But they can't see the women's. Isn't that the thing that they can't read the women's minds?
Yeah, and so he has to.
Because I remember it was like a big moment in the book because they go on an adventure and he cannot. He's like his mind is exploding because he's like, I can't read her thoughts. How do I know what she's thinking? And then he realizes he could just watch her body language and see her facial expressions.
They don't dig into
this whole big like
they don't have time.
Thing,
maybe
like,
just talk to her and ask.
Yeah, they don't have time for that in this. This is like has to move on, but they do go on an adventure together because he kind of has to rescue her from like these these other men who are like they want to ask her questions and stuff, and like she's trying to contact the ship. It's like there's like a plot. It's just like a little adventure, and he's like, well, I'm going to take her, to this other village supposedly that has the first village that was here. They're in another planet, by the way, that's like an outpost, like refugees from Earth came to this planet. So I'm just saying, like, when you watch it, I thought it's like, I don't know, even if you didn't like it, you wouldn't be like, that was just a miserable, like, disaster of a movie. You're like, it's fine. It's like, one of these things. You're like, it's fine. And then but you look at Rotten Tomatoes and it's got like a 10%, like the critics think. It's like, I don't know if it's that bad, guys. I was like, because as opposed to that, I did try to
10% movies.
Well, I try to watch. There's a movie called Cosmic Sin right now that has Bruce Willis. And if you watch it, it's like on the on-demand thing. It already has like Chaos Walking is a cool name, and because it comes from a quote they have from the book, which is like a man's thoughts on a better is like chaos walking or something. Like it's kind of a cool, like, oh, that's what they're saying, like a men walking around like that because men are kind of crazy.
It makes sense once you know the story. Yeah,
and it's a cool kind of title too, just out of context. It sounds neat. Cosmic Sin does not sound like it's gonna be a good movie.
That sounds like Pamela Anderson.
That's amazing to me.
Feels like almost like a low soft. There's no sex scene, but it almost feels like you're watching some kind of porn movie that was trying to make a story about ships, and they had like a warehouse set and this bar set, and it's set like 500 years in the future, but there's nothing really to make it look like they have neon in this bar, but the bar looks like a warehouse bar, like somewhere in just Savannah.
Neon is always futuristic.
Like out in Pooler or somewhere in Savannah. Like it looks like one of these. It's like, this is the weirdest. I had to turn it off because after 20 minutes, like this isn't even fun to watch. We should watch it like as a funny thing. But I was like, I have to turn this off.
Add it to the list.
That's a bad movie.
Bruce Willis's movies are getting depressing.
And then I looked up, that did have like a 2% around Tomatoes. So granted, it was a good. I just think that Chaos Walking one, I think we blow up these things too much. Like, what a horrible. I was like, it was fine. It wasn't great. It was average. I think most movies are average these days. It's hard to find like that Cosmic Sin, an actually poorly made movie that's just not story problems in it, I think. Well, maybe we're not looking. It's like these TV shows. They're all decent. Usually they're just boring if they're, Yeah.
We were talking about things we've been watching, and I did mention Debris, that TV show, which is, it's on NBC, I think.
Debris.
Somehow network TV has this amazing ability to make like shows that are about completely different things, but are all completely the same. These sci-fi shows that
NBC
no
does that
disparate the premise is, it's the same show you've already seen.
NBC does that every 4 years. Like, we have the greatest sci-fi premise in the world. It's called The Day the World Ends, and then it's like they do big events, and they like this feels like that. They advertise the hell out of it. It's just
a weird thing of the week with weird intrigues, but. That's the way this is. It's like, it's kind of a neat premise where like an alien spaceship crashed outside of Earth's orbit, and we saw it like with telescopes and stuff. We know that it happened, but then like sometime later, debris particles from that ship start crashing into the Earth, and they have to deal with like this alien stuff. Like that's a neat premise, but the one problem is that I know the premise because in episode 1, it is about none of that. it just opens with a title card that says it exactly like I just said it to you.
Oh no, they don't show them
They don't show anything. So we open with two, whatever
cops. One has a drinking problems. One is like divorced, and like this.
Well, and this is like it's an American CIA guy and like a British MI6, because that's the only British intelligence agency we know anyway. So she's like MI6 or something, and he's CIA, and
there's only so many there. I didn't
cooperating because each one of these things has the technology just causes makes everything go haywire. Like it freaks out. It makes people get younger, or it makes like a wormhole in time, or makes dead people come back to life. Standard stuff you'd have in an alien spaceship as part of your technology. And it all, even though it comes in shards, it all works when it hits the ground. So they're having to collect all these shards. So it's like a Fringe or an X-Files or whatever. It'll happen. I want to say the one where they came back was the people coming back to the dead was sort of like a simulation kind of thing, where it was drawing from people's memories. But that's the thing to me. I'm like, I'll watch this because I need something on, but I don't care about anything that's happening here. And I can't imagine that they're going to build to a point where someone explains how the technology on that spaceship translates into all the individual weird things that the pieces of the ship have been doing. Because there's another faction of people who have been stealing the technology, and they're finding ways to harness and use it. So they show up with superpowers or whatever here. Meanwhile, the governments are just collecting the pieces and barely know how anything works. But these guys can teleport and bullshit like that. And you're like,
like early Smallville, when it was just like, oh, this other person has superpowers, completely random different ones because they were near
kryptonite. Yeah, you got get hit with a meteor and turned into
just any random power that they want that week because kryptonite.
Yeah.
How does that work? Yeah.
Yeah, Smallville got better after 2 or 3 years because they just had introduced enough weird things that they didn't need a central premise like that. But like the first season was literally just kids turning into meteor mutants and murdering their parents. It's a very dark first season for Smallville.
Well, I'm almost that thing with most shows now where you're just like, just don't get complicated. Even that Superman and Lois show we're watching, which we like. I like those 6 episodes they had or 5 were really great.
I've enjoyed it.
They're starting to get. Well, they're starting to get more and more complicated. It's like, just chill out, guys. I don't want to. At some point, it's like
it's an alternate version of Earth, and I'm all for that. So they get to sort of leverage some of that Zack Snyder idea in a way that makes sense in a context that we can sort of digest, where he's the Luthor from an alternate Earth where Superman did go crazy and took over the world.
I like that, but then
that's why
he
hates Superman.
Like people with super. I was like, I don't even need all this really. I just kind of like the drama stuff between all them.
I kind of just like him hanging out with his kids.
I kind of do. Like on one of those episodes, he's Superman for like a minute, and it's fine. And you're like, this is fine. I like this story.
They got a pretty good balance because most of the show is about him not being Superman, and I
that Lois and Clark story, one from like the 90s, that lasted forever.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was goofy as hell, but it was fun because it was about those two characters.
This is basically the same premise. It's like
you get two characters with good chemistry, and we just want to watch them be people.
This one is this one's Friday Night Lights with that premise. Basically, it's like Friday Night Lights, and then he gets an alarm every now and then. He has to run real quick, and it's pretty cool when he does it too. It's like, that was pretty cool.
That was the only thing that I would have said negatively about WandaVision is I would have liked more episodes from the beginning where they were just being a couple. I liked that. That was my favorite bit.
Well, that's the thing again. Falcon Winter Soldier. The best episode is still that number 2. I think number 2 was the best episode so far, and it's mostly a lot of them talking and stuff. And it's like I like them talking
because in the first episode they're not together.
Yeah,
like the first episode has a lot of fun beats. Like it opens up with that awesome like flight sequence where like a big cinematic action sequence with him, and you're like, man, Falcon kicks ass. I like to see this.
Yeah,
he's like where they really have to show you how Falcon is a solo guy, and he's not using machine guns anymore. So he's just really good at the wings.
He's got bombs. He has bombs.
Really good at wings.
Well, he has a robot with machine guns,
but he has bombs too that he throws. He threw a couple grenades in the helicopter.
Oh yeah, that's true. He did do that.
He's killing people, which is fine because they've always killed people though. Him and Captain America have
Well,
always
he's a
killed.
soldier. Like, I don't love that,
Yeah, they're
but I don't.
soldiers. It's
But
kinda
it's
what they
not a
do.
diehard rule that all these characters.
I don't mind
can't
them doing
kill.
it because how many other shows hamper that idea so much? I'm like, just let them kill people. Who cares? Sorry,
And
go ahead.
they're like, you're a normal human man, and you're being shot at with machine guns.
Right.
So
can
it's
shoot
okay
people.
that you're shooting back. But
And
I
these
tell you,
people are bad guys.
Yeah,
They're
they're
bad
all-
guys.
I
They're all
did
bad
not.
guys.
I
It's
did
like
not like the third episode though.
It was the big goofiest one because they're like, we have to get into like just cram all the plot exposition into this one. Like,
And they had the John Wick guy doing it, so it just felt like a sort of miniature John Wick.
literally everything that happened in
Story.
it is from a John Wick movie. Yeah, absolutely everything that happened from it.
And I hate stories where they team up with the mastermind criminal and he just has them on a string.
Yeah, see, this is the
And
first
that's
one.
what happened in that episode. I just did not like. We're like, what are you doing? And like, he's clearly gonna kill that dude. Like, and they're like, what'd you do? You killed that guy. It's like, I told you, I am all about there being no more superheroes. And you're gonna bring me to a lab with a guy who says that he can make superhero serum, and I'm not gonna murder that guy. I'm not the one off brand here, guys. You guys are the ones who.
Yeah, I mean, for as deep as the second episode was so good, like written wise, and like all the emotional beats in it are really good.
Mm-hmm.
And all like they show a little bit of action. You see a little bit like I have this theory in theory movies. You just need to see them like just seeing Bucky run faster than the truck is enough. You're like, oh, that was good. I like that. That was like you just want to see them be exceptional for a second. And you're like, that's fine. It's just like superhero shit. Superman. So you're like, just a little bit, and I'm good.
Yeah.
And then they fight, and it's fine. But there's more interaction and like banter. But also like it has one of the most like from going from the Isaiah Bradley thing where they're really hitting on that to them getting stopped outside, awesome. Like all the racial stuff, like it's like, oh my god, Marvel's really doing all this stuff. And then to Bucky's thing, his like real breakdown about like if Steve was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. Like it's great. I was like, holy moly, I love that scene. I love it.
And this next episode just feels like they took a step away from all that to do something that I'm not interested in.
To me, it got more WandaVision became emotional at the end, but WandaVision was more fun the entire time and weird, and then became really sad and like, oh my god, this is like that was emotional right away. And then this one felt like an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a little bit, a lot bit, and like with a bigger budget. It's like, okay, so the bad guy's with you, and we're gonna immediately get disguises and go in here, and immediately the person's gonna shoot them from windows and be following us from the rooftops. It's like, is she Spider-Man or something? Or like it just becomes, and she's an international art dealer, and then it's like
I don't like to see the characters completely lose agency, especially Sam. Like to me, this is Falcon's story foremost. I know Winter Soldier is a big part of it, but you have a whole episode where he's just in the back going, I don't know why we're doing this. I don't think we should be doing this.
Like, because it feels like the arc of this story is Sam realizing and not being ashamed that he should be Captain America. And
hopefully this will help inform that, because he'll be like, I'm tired of just being drug around by you guys and being told what we're supposed to be doing. If I'm going to be Captain America, then you're going to follow my lead. Like Winter Soldier in the second Captain America movie is like, no, we're tearing S.H.I.E.L.D. down.
Right.
Like we're not fixing shit. It all goes.
And it feels like Bucky's job is he's going to be his sidekick, but he needs him to get his stuff together so he can get his stuff together. Like they're very... And they need to be good bond. And the whole episode's about them coming together as friends, becoming friends, for the first time. And then also him accepting the responsibility. It's a cool dynamic. And then this third episode was just like weird. I mean, Madripoor is cool, but it was goofy as hell. Like it was just like
Zemo is cool, but it just doesn't work with the dynamic of what you're doing with those characters. I don't want to see them following Zemo around. I hate the trope of the villain is so much smarter than us. And
it makes heroes look like idiots the whole time. You're like, okay, this is
and they don't guess that he's going to do obvious things. If you break Zemo out, he's going to kill people.
Well, the problem is Zemo has interesting stuff to say. They break him out, and eventually, I like his little thing. He talks about people like Captain America, and he's like, "Well, the problem is we started to worship these people, and then become these things." And I was like, "That's a good point." That's his best moment in the episode. And then from there.
You could have had this whole episode, and all you had to do was have Zemo break out of prison, and they go catch him.
Yeah,
and then you could have the same episode the same way.
Or
except they're leading it. It's their agency, and they're not like, "Well, I went to visit Zemo, and he said maybe I should break him out, so I did because whatever."
But then
all those people are injured and killed. like from the prison riot that he started.
But every moment, it just felt really loose writing wise. Even from then talking, like they go in and talk to the doctor, and the doctor the scientist guy, and he just tells them everything. He says the whole
bragging about it. It's
story.
like, you are trying to get shot in the face right now.
He's like, how much did you make? And he didn't go enough or something. Even that, he goes 20 vials exactly.
Exactly,
like, hold on,
20,
maybe 21, but 20 vials exactly. And then so and so, first name, last name, and whatever her character, I forgot her name. She called me the other. It's like, why did she, not Sharon Carter, the terrorist girl? She's like
Carly
Vanderbilt. She called me the other day. I was like, why would she even call you? You stole this from her, and then why are you telling us this? Because you need to tell us that her mom, whoever had tuberculosis. That's the only reason you just told us that.
I like that your placeholder was to just say first name, last name.
Yeah, well, that's what. Well, because that premise is weird to me to say. That's weird when people do that. You know, like Sean Gilbert called me the other day.
Yeah, full name.
You know what I mean? It's weird, and also that's the person you just stole from you, so you didn't even call or something, or you didn't even. That's a weird scene because that one's so cliche too. That is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. scene,
and the whole thing blew up.
He's like, I would have made mine beautiful. Like the idea that he advanced it and made it where they don't get all like ridiculous muscles, which is funny because Captain America, they're like, that's the moment of the whole scene that's interesting. And I do like Zemo shooting him because he does have, it's to his character. He wants to get rid of all these people that do this, and he's already told them.
I'm just annoyed that they're not even watching Zemo
because he had to do the whole thing.
Because I knew he was going to do that, and I knew he was going to do it in front of them, and I knew they were going to be shocked. I was like, man,
the only thing that wasn't cliche about the episode is that Zemo stayed with them at the end. I thought he was going to just lip away like immediately. And then,
I like that he has a mask that he wears for the sake of his stunt double. Because he finds this mask and he's like, here we go. And he puts it on. And then he starts doing monkey flips all over the place and shooting people and just jumping. And then as soon as he's done with the action stuff, he takes the mask
that was just
off.
Goofy as hell, too. Because that mask could have been something he put on like when they're running away that he's like, I'm blending in
leave the mask on. They wanted him to have that reaction like, here we go. I found a Mustang. But look, at that point, if you're making the decision to have him put the mask on, he's got to leave it on for the rest of the scene. Because he is making him like Vin Diesel, and
that's what I mean. This is
black,
the
where he just keeps taking his sunglasses off to show you his contacts.
Hopefully, it's because they were like spinning a billion plates with these last 3 episodes. They're going to be so amazing. This is the first one I was like, this is.
And I think they had to restructure some things because they had planned some story elements that they had to switch around, and maybe some of the clumsiness is based on that. So maybe it might have been tighter.
But they did shoot half
the way they were originally doing it.
Half of this after,
So, but I do hope, because he's doing the next episode too, the same writer. I'm like, So, but I want to get back to the story that
it's the same director the entire time, and the direction's always been fine. I mean, the direction's not horrible.
It's good action. It's fun, and I don't mind the character beats. Like people are like, well, I don't like Sharon Carter. Seems all cynical. It's like, well, she got screwed, so I get it.
I mean,
I think she's probably going to be undercover.
I
anyway,
I thought it was pretty understandable. And Sam goes, "Well, I'm sorry I didn't call you." He's like, "Whoa, Sam, you didn't."
You've never spoken to her since Civil War?
It's literally your job to go, hey, guys, there's an agent of ours that's actually cool.
But at the same time, he's like, look, after that happened, I was in like a maximum security C prison.
Well,
then I was a fugitive on the run. Then I fought an alien army. Then I got erased from existence for 5 years.
I get all of it. It's just more like...
I haven't even caught up with my parents' boat yet.
Yeah.
I get the regular shit. Like I can't even get a bank loan. I can't get Sharon Carter pardoned.
That's why Sam's sister's been pissed about him being gone for 5 years. Like he was gone for like 7 years before that, doing this stuff on his own volition. The 5 year thing he couldn't help.
That was some of the stuff that I had a big problem with. I only watched the first episode and I found it pretty hard slog to get through. It was long. I could just see what they were doing where they're like, well, you need to have these characters have a character arc. So let's beat them down at the beginning so that they have somewhere to go. And I found that it made both characters very unlikable. And I struggled a lot. Like the scene where Bucky's talking to his psychiatrist, whoever it is, they shot it really weirdly for a start. All these weird angle shots.
I wonder if they want us to think that there's something sinister about her, because they really did shoot that with these.
What are they doing? And he just fights with her the whole time. And that scene was so long. And then the one with Sam and his sister on the boat, and you know how it's going to go from the beginning. And I hate that when you know how a scene's going to go and you know it's going to go poorly for the people involved. And so you're just sitting there the whole time going, Sam, stop bullying your sister. She keeps telling you all this stuff. She sounds like she's right.
Yeah,
why are you coming in here and taking over and talking her into this? And then they go to the bank and you know how it's going to play out. Yeah. And you know it's going to work out. And I'm just like, oh, I hate seeing people make dumb decisions and be dumb on screen. And I
don't know.
Really
there's a reality to that though that I buy into though, because you are like Sam, like she was on her own. She made some decisions. Don't come around after the fact, second guessing everything she did. Like she's right in this. But she's
right, and that's part of the problem. Is that like she gets shafted? Why? Because she's a girl? Because he's coming in and he's a hero? Because he needs to throw his dick around? I just found it really, really patronizing for him, and it made me really dislike him. And I know his heart's in the right place and he's trying to take over and whatnot, but she was right. She was right the whole time.
I do find it to be a fun reversal because in his personal life with his parents, like his problem is that he can't let go. And then when it comes to the Shield, that was what he decided to do.
And that's why the show's
like the opposite lesson on that is like what you need to learn to do is find the happy medium in both of those things. Like you have to be able to accept change coming for your parents' boat, let that go, and then you have to also accept change for yourself and accept this role of becoming, because he thinks he is embracing change by giving up the Shield, because he thinks, well, we need a new kind of hero for this age and whatever, but the change you need to embrace is that transformation and becoming a new kind of Captain America.
Once you dig into like the racial undertone subtext of all that in the second episode, that's when it becomes actually interesting. I think with the Captain Bradley story.
I'll watch the second one and see how it goes. I just felt really like the characters were set up in a way that made me dislike them, and then the antagonist was always some woman, and I felt like show isn't really for me.
Well, that's what you might not like. If you don't like them after a while, watch this. If you don't like it after the second episode, you're just not gonna like it, because the second episode does two things. One, it kind of racially and humanistically grounds the story with Sam too. And then also with Bucky, it kind of grounds where it kind of shows where they're both coming from in a way, that's like, oh, this is what the arc of this is actually, but not just their, struggling to live or whatever, I think I like that second episode a lot because I think you're getting to the meat of the story. And that's why the third episode, it feels like you're going in Goofy Land again. It's weird. Like I feel like
a step backwards. The third episode was a step backwards to me.
Cliches in Family Land are sometimes like, well, that's how families are, this like. But when it's like for tropes and like we have to see this Blade Runner city, and I guess cool Madripoor is like the X-Men city, and that's neat and everything. But it's like everything was on the nose.
Zemo as one of those dumb genius. Like you always have these characters that they tell you in the text is a genius, but then they do dumb things. And that's like Zemo is like, so your plan is for us to go in this bar and Bucky's going to be the Winter Soldier and sort of leverage that reputation, even though people know that he helped Captain America save the world.
It's a weird plan. They have to just go in there and cause a ruckus.
And then you're going to have Sam dress up like a known dude. Like, why wouldn't you? He could have said he was anybody else. You could have made up any name. Why does he have to pose as a known gangster? Yeah. The only thing that could definitely debunk by saying, "Oh, well, your name's not Sam because you're supposed to be Smiling Tiger or whatever." It's like,
I just hope this episode was like, "Hey, we have to shoot something in 2 weeks of this pandemic. Let's just pull this episode." Like, the episode just feels like a really fast. Like we have access to a container yard. So do you want to do anything?
Yeah, exactly. It is a red flag in a show or a movie when they just show up in a shipping yard full of containers.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
It does seem because even in the Batman, that's usually what Batman does when he's
well, at least even Batman had a cool kind of way to get into it. It became visually arresting. This one's like, just press that back door. Just like,
the secret panel, and then it's a thing that doesn't look like it's inside a container at all.
No, it goes upstairs. It's like they're all like hidden.
I wonder if that's a reshoot business too. It makes you wonder on everything. It's like, did you guys just do like a quickie segue to put them
interesting
in
that the episodes are so long. Like with WandaVision, like we got those nice, cute little episodes. So you didn't have time.
Well, they're only doing 6 of these though, so that's why.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I'm enjoying this as a long kind of movie kind of format, but WandaVision definitely used TV format really shrewdly because they got to play with that spoof of sitcoms from week to week, and then when it did sort of break out of that format, the story had called for it. The only thing weak in WandaVision was that finale was pretty much exactly what you thought the finale would be, and you're like, I kind of thought they were going to subvert some of those by having some interesting twists, but still, it was all fine.
Yeah, what we were looking for. I mean, WandaVision was cool and it surprised us, and it was like, to me, WandaVision was like, oh, it's like an MCU. It felt very on the point of an MCU show. Like, cool. This, it's like, what any of these shows you're watching, you're like, it's got to beat Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a minimum.
Does it feel cinematic?
But also, can it beat like Daredevil season 1 too, right? Can it beat, because that show's about real things, you know what I mean? And I think WandaVision's about things in its own way, in its own genre. I think it's up there. I think it's, just as good as like valid as like a thing as that Daredevil. With this show, it's dangerous because it's got to be it's a serious show dealing with issues. Then it's like, man, you're like,
yeah, but I hate to see in a Daredevil, you can do like they did where they're challenging the hero's ethos, where they're saying,
right? I mean,
especially second season Daredevil, where it's Daredevil and Punisher, and Punisher's like, well, whatever. Sooner or later, we're gonna kill people because it's ninjas,
right?
So I'm gonna win that argument in the least likely way.
Well, but almost it feels like
that situation doesn't come up most times.
Yeah, but this character, but even compared like that to the Iron Fist, like Daredevil has real pathos. That's what you're looking for. It's like real characters, because like in the movies, Tony and Steve pulled it off. And
you want to see that conflict in Daredevil because of the way they establish him and his character. But what I don't want to see is Sam is he's on an arc that ostensibly will be him taking on the mantle of Captain America.
Right.
So we don't need an episode in the middle where everyone just suddenly says, heroes are bullshit, right? Like everybody just says that to his
and he doesn't answer
and he's
back.
Like, okay, I don't know.
And the only answer back, I like what Bucky goes, oh, she's just horrible. Oh, awful now. Yeah. it's like
exactly.
That's the best line of the episode, I think, because he's like, yeah, like what are you talking? Like, and they don't because they have to move on to the next dance party.
That
like
could
3
be
dance
legit.
parties in this.
She could have been disenfranchised that way because she's sort of left in the cold, or it's possible that character is undercover and we may find out that she is working for somebody and she is actually trying to help them. Whatever. Like either way, it's genuine. It's fine. But when it comes to Sam, I don't want to see him malleable and lacking in agency, because this whole thing, he's conflicted about what he wants to do about Captain America. He's not conflicted about Captain America. It's not like he's saying, I put away that shield because I don't know if Captain America was a good idea, because he knows Steve Rogers Captain America was. He just doesn't know if anybody else can do it. Like, I don't believe in the symbol as much as I believed in that man. So we might as well retire the symbol and just try to be a good man. And people are saying, well, but you can do both. You can carry on that legacy, but you have to, you have this other guy who is carrying on the legacy, and he is not carrying the legacy of being a man. He's just carrying on the legacy of being of wearing a flag on his chest.
But that's why I like also when he gets into the racial undertones of the thing, or not even overtones of the thing, where it's like, that's also Sam's reasoning too. Though.
Yeah,
and
that's a perspective that's
he's giving that. He's becoming like, nobody wants to see that. They're gonna. He doesn't.
And that's the argument I want to see. Yeah, I want him to say, "Look, Bucky, you can think that, and Steve thought it, but you don't have my perspective."
And he says that.
So you can't be telling me what I'm supposed to be a symbol of.
Well, he says that about them. He's like, it's something you and C are never going to understand. And that's what he's saying. That it's a subtext in that situation. And then they go into actually just talking about it. And then the cop pulls them over. It's like, this is what this show's about. Let's do this.
Right on the nose, yeah.
And then we just go into the third episode's bad because there's no conversation like there is right there.
I'm going to watch it and I'm going to be like, man, that third episode, I loved it.
Great.
Yeah, maybe.
Every conversation's about the plot of that episode. There's
I do love
and talk about something,
I love Daniel Bruhl.
He's great.
He's great in that.
Dancing in the club.
I totally want Zemo to turn out to be a white supremacist in this, because I think
that's what he is in the comics.
In some versions of the comics, yeah. So I'd like to see that, because it's sort of hinted at in things he does and says in reference to them here.
Yeah.
But I would like that, because so much of this episode was kind of setting Zemo up as being not sympathetic in the way he was in Civil War, where it was real. Like now he's a comic book character. He has like a fluffy coat and a mask, and he's a real baron, and he's like a billionaire and whatever. But he's sympathetic in the sense that some of the things he says seem to make sense, and he's likable because Daniel Bruhl's really good. But I want that turnaround where we find out, no, he's full on terrible. Obviously, if you didn't know that already from all the murders he's done.
Yeah, that's the thing about this is the thing about
What
the
gave it away?
Like,
was it all the murders?
As spectacle and all the things are, especially that's why I like Civil War the best. But a lot of the Russo brother ones that they do, they're very like emotionally nuanced, right? The actual drama, and it's not just because of those writers, Stephen McFeely and and Christopher Marcus. Yeah, those guys, they have real. Speaking of YouTube, there's a lot of really great interviews with them on YouTube talking about. I love those guys are very down to earth and pretty cool. Their process with that is like the emotionality is real. That because they've talked about that stuff. Like the plot doesn't actually matter if the emotions don't actually hit. So you can actually lose emotions from the plot being bad too, but the emotions of these moments have to make sense. Because they also don't. They mentioned like when they're going through Endgame, you're like, really, when Rocket and them are there, the Tesseract's in Asgard at that moment. You forget about that. We just said, it's locked up in the vault because there's like they know the emotion of that moment with the mom is what's more important. You're not even going to think about what's happening.
And they may not remember all that thing. I do like
and they don't care.
The knowledge that the characters aren't omniscient. Yeah. They make mistakes and forget things.
But there's a very just I don't even know how to say this, like a quality, like a grade A Andrew approved choice, like quality of drama in those movies in the Civil War. I think it's as goofy as they are. They have a very emotional, and that's what I want. And I think in WandaVision, they really did a job of holding that up. Of like they can be goofy, but the emotionality of the resonance of it is very faithful. And I think the first one, it kind of meanders, like Lynn, you're saying. And I think I landed home with that second episode, and then this third one just went into goofball land a little bit. I'm like, not that I hate it and they can pull it around. It wasn't the worst episode in the world, but you're like, I watched all of it. I watched every episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., okay? I know what I'm talking about. You're getting into dangerous territory. There's going to be clones eventually right in the second, and there's going to be life model decoys.
You got to get the lid back on this quick.
You need to, chill it. So...
It's funny because it's not like it's an immediate dissatisfier either. It's fine. But I remember watching that and just not saying anything, and I went on with my day. And then like we were watching videos later on, and Megan was like, "I really didn't like that third episode." I was like, "Yeah, me either." It wasn't going to say anything, but
I can tell when it comes back around at the end of the day. Once I watch it, and then I start like watching like my 8 or 10 reaction video people that I watch every now and then when something like this comes, and I'm like, just no very good moments here, like. There's like the conversation moments in that second episode. I like watching people's reaction to, and they're like, they react. So I was like, oh, this is cool. But this one was like, it just started. And overall, people seem to be up on it more than I was. Like, and people were like, this is great episode. A lot of stuff happening. I'm like, okay. Well.
I think I've heard a couple of that would say, this was a little awkward.
Right.
But yeah.
In general, they're more up on it than I was.
Yeah. But I just don't like that where we have to take the heroes through and they just have to play bad guy for a while, and it's always so dumb.
We've seen all Agents. We've seen those shows before. It's like I want it to be. We haven't seen an episode of WandaVision before. That what they presented was something, and you don't have to do crazy in the plot, but with these characters, I haven't seen. It's funny how this is becoming Civil War because everybody that was in Civil War is in this movie now, especially even at the end.
That's why it becomes so noticeable, because this is essentially a spiritual sequel to Civil War, because it's a follow-up with those characters. So, Zemo and Bucky and Falcon. So when it falls short, you really notice because you compare it to Civil War, which was so tight, and it was just so on point with what it was doing.
Yeah, it feels like they might have gotten a little carried away. We're talking about like we can expect what's happening, because I think Kevin Feige, when he does, I don't know, he's not micromanaging these episodes, so I'm sure but what they've been good at the movies is going, I know what people are going to want, and let's kind of expect, give them that, but kind of, change expectations in a way. And like this one, it's like they do feel like they're giving you, sometimes you get what you want. It's like, okay. Because as they're going into that scene with Zemo's like, he's going to start saying the words again immediately. I know that's what's going to happen. That'd be kind of cool. And he does.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and it doesn't do anything. Obviously. Yeah.
And it's like, well, and I think it's because they're not landing it either, though. Maybe if there was like a better interaction there, if Bucky said something funnier or did something more interesting. It's just the writing is just flat. It's just very flat. And so you're like, well, that wasn't worth it.
Well, it doesn't work because if the scene's going to start with Bucky establishing that the words don't work on anymore, it's awkward for the sequence to end with, but then I went ahead and broke him out of jail.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, what were you let's play the scene out a different way. What were you hoping he was going to say when you went to talk to him? Because it immediately just went down to you deciding to break him out of prison. He didn't even say anything really while you were talking to him that made you think he was useful that much.
Yeah, and Sam's thing in that whole scene is correct. He's like totally correct. He's like, no, we're not doing that. That's
like,
the
what
worst
are you talking
idea.
about?
And then
well,
by the end of it,
the dichotomy there is like, this is Sam being put in the position that Bucky put Steve in Civil War. It's like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, and I just want you to back me up, please, as a friend. And so it's like, so here, I'm going to do this because of my loyalty to you, but I don't think this is...
There's no dramatic tension because they don't play out there like, let's just do a hypothetical, but it's playing like we know it's happening as we're watching it.
So you've seen a million heist movies. It
doesn't work as a premise, though. It's like, okay, that doesn't even work. I mean, but then at the end, it ends with a trailer moment because Sam goes, okay, what's our next move, Zemo? I was like, why do you say that? He wouldn't even be like that. He would not be agreeing with this even at that moment. But
that's what I don't like.
What's he going to do?
Agency, like,
yeah, what's he going to do?
There, and they're just taking orders from him. The next thing you know, we're on my plane talking to my butler. It's like, has this guy just been waiting?
Yeah, and it was just in the first episode. Sam has no problems going off on his own.
His butler's like 95. You're telling me that guy has been using the last of his Twilight years to just wait and see if you could break out of jail?
I love superhero butlers. They're just like so loyal, and they just hang around. And
it would have been more interesting if Sam went off, like left them almost there. And he went off with Torres and did some more investigation of that thing. And then Bucky's having to like do this thing with Zemo. That would have been a more fun interplay.
And maybe they ended up in Madripoor together.
He's the one that ends up coming there, tracking it down to Madripoor at the same time, saves him. And then you get, because the tension is not between Sam and Zemo, it's between Winter Soldier and Zemo, like between Bucky and Zemo. That's where tension should be, you know. And him being friendly with him immediately. I like him breaking him out, but being very hostile with him would be a more interesting dynamic. You know, they've just put all the power in his hand. Like, what do you want us to do? And it's like, no.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we'll do this. I'll put this jacket on and do these things. It's like there needs to be more tension there. Like, why? What do you need? You know, Sam. That would have been Sam or agency, and have him save the people at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there were ways to earn all that stuff. I just didn't feel like it did. I did not like the way the characters.
You know what? Maybe Sharon Carter is like going to be a bigger deal. Like, it seems like she will be. The way you have her come in is with Sam. So like, I made contact with an old friend, and they're the ones coming in together. You know what I mean? Like, and Sam's the one that reached out to her because there's a whole network they've had the entire time. It's really disappointing to think that Sam hadn't checked up on these people. Like, that's kind of weird. I like the idea that they came in like, oh, I have a contact there. And you know that she's there.
The only one of the three people there. There's Bucky, there's Sam, and there's Zemo. The only one of those three that's been like an active agent recently is Sam. Why is he the one that has the least amount of information about this stuff?
But they also came there on a plane.
Contacts
and he's got wings. Why doesn't he just leave if he doesn't want to take part in it? He's like, this is up to you, but I'm not even getting involved with this.
Got wings. Just fly away.
Yeah, fly away, man.
Yeah, why is he on a plane? I just like the idea that he would fly like 10,000 miles. Just
like bird poop on his face. Like,
I'll go off on my own. You may have wanted Tim Meadows.
I've thought of that before. When people are like, well, you could be like Superman and fly stuff. Like, but it'd probably be like really cold and like and like really uncomfortable after a while to get places. And
yeah,
you know,
Superman does that where he like flies people to China, but that can't be the most comfortable way to fly
after a while. Like,
and like a bird would hit you and just knock your head off. Yeah, his arm. His arm gets sore. He's like, that's why I hate fly after a while.
Does he have to do that to fly? Can he just like
if you find him on a long flight, you just see him sort of hanging him limp like a cat.
Oh man,
it's like I don't have to point.
Can he Naruto fly?
Like, do I even have to like? Apparently, I don't even have to bend over and like lay down either. I could just go forward because I can just rise normally. It's like the jets coming out of my feet or something. Like what is?
Yeah. I mean, I know it's more aerodynamic if I'm straight, but other than that,
Really?